Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced. This game was played in Freestyle Chess Finals that's happening in South Africa, and with the black pieces here we have Arjun Erigaisi facing off against Levon Aronian, and this is going to be an absolutely epic matchup because Arjun and Levon faced each other in FIDE World Cup, and Arjun was able to get a win and knock out Levon Aronian, so he must be, in the spirit of revenge, but I've never seen, Levon in the spirit of revenge absolutely ever. He's an absolute gentleman of the game, but let's see what he does with the white pieces here. He goes for f4, and f4 normally, no one would like to go for Dutch, but in this position just f5, and here we have b3, knight to b6, just going for c4 and just g6. Now everything is fine in this position, definitely a preparation they would both have made, but now just comes knight to f3, and it's like both of them are making inaccuracies right and left. It's an inaccuracy basically where you were supposed to go for this knight a to c2. I mean, this is just no one is going to find this. Definitely this much more natural here. Knight to f3, just d6, and now just comes bishop to d4, first attacking the queen, and here knight to f6 comes, and the knight is, pinned, so you can actually think of a lot of ways to utilize that advantage of that pin, because that knight is covering that g4 square and also that e4 square. So e4 does seem like a very nice option, because now if you go for this f caps on e4, you go for this knight to g5, and after knight bd7, just g3 in this position, and if queen to g7, just developing more pieces, knight to c2, and now you can even go for ideas like e5. First, you go for f captures, d captures, bishop caps on a7, attacking the rook. Rook moves, and now that pawn is going to fall. But you can go for a very nice idea with this bishop to e3. Just develop that, and either you capture this, go for a draw in this position, or there are some moves like c6. You also have bishop to e7, just developing. If you capture that, you will never going to castle again, so that's going to be a problem as well. And you most likely don't want to castle hit in this position, so that's not going to be good as well. So not much chances you have here. But after knight to c2, just c5 was played by c5 was played by Arjun in this position. Now just comes this bishop to a1. We have bishop to c7, and in this position just going for g3. So g3 is a very fine move. It just brings alive the queen, and but you would want to actually just develop this knight somewhere, but both these squares are actually taken. You can go for this knight to g5, as I showed you in that previous line. That was also a fine move, so something that must be on Levon's radar. But now knight b to c7, all of these moves are just seemingly inaccuracies. It's not that much, because here engine is suggesting you're supposed to go for a queenside cap, basically a queenside castle, and that would be very, very. Oh, mind you, that queenside castle is not this one. This is going to be a kingside castle, and this is actually a queenside castle. So complicated a little bit, but yeah, this works fine. But this was that engine was suggesting, and then the game would be fine. But that's why here knight b to c7 is supposedly an inaccuracy. Not at all matters, but just d3, and now comes e5. So he goes for the central thrust here. Arjun e3 was played, and here rook to e8, and now just comes f captures, d captures, knight to d2 now, and you could go for very nice ideas in this position, which moves like h5 in here. It's absolutely amazing, because after bishop to f3, now you go for even g5. You can just push the pawns all the way, and you can see the engine evaluation shifting, because the position is actually getting better here. Bishop to d5, you try to go for get the bishop active, because g4 like ideas are already there. You can go for even f4, and now once you go for queenside castle, just queen to h7, and if bishop caps on g8, just queen captures, g caps on f4, g captures, and after this e captures, you go for e captures, and you get this position where it's still fine. I mean, you can see that black's position is much better, because you can just get the king castle, and the queen is already placed on a very nice angle. The rooks can be connected. You can maybe try to go for an attack, and anyone who would want to actually just play this position would rather play it as black in this position rather than white. But I mean, even if I had to pick, I'd definitely pick black. But this was one such opportunity Arjun had in this position to go for a better position. And what way to, go for that with having a better position against the world's best, which is Levon Aronian. That would be absolutely spectacular. And you learn a lot. I mean, this guy is like playing chess for 25 to 30 years. So experienced, and definitely one of the world's best. But here in this position, instead of all of this, queen to g5 was played by queen to g7 was played by Arjun. And now just comes bishop to f3. We have queen to e7. Now comes a queenside castle by Levon. And you can see his position slightly bit shifting. But both of these plays are going blows by blows. It's not like anyone is better. It's still a drawish position, but let's see what happens here. Bishop to a5 was played, and now just comes bishop to g2, e4, finally just pushing that pawn towards the center, and now we have d captures, bishop caps on d2 first, because you had to go for that. If you I mean, in this position, if you decide to go for like this d captures, then the trouble for you would be that Levon's position would become just instantly better, because there is one way you can take advantage of this. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video. Look at this position from the perspective of white. You have a shot to getting a winning position against Arjun Erigaisi. You don't want to miss that. Have at it, find the best move. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find the idea. The move is g4, and g4 is not at all easy to spot, because does not seem to be all the way clear, but you think that that's a free pawn. Why not just grab it? Well, if you grab it with knight captures on g4, your entire world will fall apart after this knight captures on e4. And now you've lost a pawn, and that's not a normal pawn, that's a central pawn. And that's going to be troublesome, because this, well, very nice skewer is actually just targeting that b7. And now if bishop to c7, now you go for this very spectacular move, that is this rook captures on d7. And if queen captures on d7, you go for this first knight caps on c5, first attacks this. Once you go queen to d6, you're already eyeing this. Why not just go for a check in this position? And if king to d8, now you can all see the move here, rook to d7, rook to d1, and now your queen is lost basically. So that's the entire point, how quickly this position can fall apart. And this is one such idea. But after t caps on e4, hey, bishop caps on d2 was played. That's why you have to eliminate that knight first. And once rook caps on d2, now go for knight caps on e4. Bishop captures, queen caps, and rook captures was played. Now here, rook to f4 was asked. And Arjun could have traded in this position, but he decides that it's better to keep the rooks on the board for him. So he goes back with the rook. And here in this position, e4 was played by Levon. He just f caps on e4. You could have also gone for this rook caps on e4 and asked for more trades, because that's what Levon was asking for before this. Rook captures, f captures, rook to e2 now. And there is no easy way to, try and defend that. You have to lose the pawn. If you go for this, then just bishop captures. And if a6, now just comes rook captures, give king to c7, knight to e3, b5. You're trying to go for some decent lines in this position. Bishop to c3, now you just go for king to c6, and your position is absolutely amazing. But here after e4, f caps on e4 was played by by Arjun, and now just comes rook to e2. Here to queen side castle finally by Arjun, but just comes this rook captures, rook captures, rook captures. So you trade a pair of rooks, but now just rook to f8 was played, trying to just take control of the open file and go after those pawns. But just king to d2, I mean, allowing that. If you want to go, just go have at it with a check. Well, you can do that, but the trouble for you is it's not going to yield anything. Just rook back, and if you trade in this position, what the most you'll get in this position is a draw. Let's say bishop to e6 in this position, you just get the bishop here, but now just comes this knight to e3. The knight is jumping in, and you don't have much. If h5, trying to go for that, it's opposite colored bishop's endgame, most likely, more so often than not, this position ends towards a draw. And yes, white's king is a little bit more active, but it's not going to be enough to win this game, and both players realize this. So after king to d2, king to c7 was played, but Levon is going for a grind in this position. If he wanted to go for a draw, he had many opportunities. King to e2, king to d6, and after bishop to g7. Basically, that just tells you intent about the player, that what he wants to do. And once you see it on the board when you're playing, that your opponent is not going for a draw, he's not going for a drawish lines, he's more so often than not going to accept a draw even in these drawn positions. Because hey, if Arjun would have asked for a draw in this position, Levon would think that he's better and most likely not go for a draw. And that's the thing, because now he's going to go for a grind. And in the first, or this game was played in the first round, so definitely in the first round, Levon does not want a draw and he wants a win. So let's see what he does. Here, rook to c8 was played by Arjun. Now just comes even knight to e3, bishop to e6 now, but here just g4, rook to e8, g5, rook to e7, and now just comes bishop back to c3. We have rook to f7, trying to take control towards the open file, but slowly but surely here, the position of Arjun's pieces are constricting, and that's not something that you want to happen. Here just h4 was played, but now comes even a6. We have bishop to e1, knight to f8, and now just comes bishop to g3, king to c6 in this position. And maybe with a move like a4 in this position, you are fine. b6, bishop to e5, get the bishop centralized, rook goes to e7, you ask for a trade, bishop to g3 again, rook to d7, rook to f4. You can just shuffle the pieces around, but the thing is that that's not going to change the fact that this position is a draw. Rook to f7, rook to e4, and after this, just go for king to d3, rook to d7 check, king goes to c3. It's not going to give you much. Most likely b5 is a committal decision that I would not want to make. The knight is very decently placed on that, defending against everything. The rook is controlling the entire file. It's going to be difficult to break through here. But after king to c6, rook to e5 was played. Now b5, and here we have bishop to f2, just b caps on c4. We have knight caps on c4, bishop caps on c4, b captures, and in this position just knight to d7 was played. It's given as a brilliant move because this was the only move to keep the game going in the direction that Arjun would have a decent chance to be able to save this. Rook to e6 check, and now just comes this king to b7, bishop to e3, knight to b6. And the trouble for both of these players is that they are playing just on increment. They are less than 15 seconds on the clock, and it's going to be very difficult to try and survive here because the end games, I mean, end games are just called as such because they happen at the end of it where you don't have the time and you need to find the right ideas. That's why I keep on telling you guys just to have a very in-depth advantage of the end games. I'm covering the Doretsky endgame manual. I'm making so many shots on that, and this is the reason why. You'll see the idea now, because hey, bishop caps on c5 was beat, now just comes knight caps on c4, king to d3, and there was just one move in this position for Arjun to save the game. And I'm gonna ask you to pause the video, try and find out, for the second time, just have at it, see the position, and try to find out just one move in this position which saves this endgame for you, because endgames are crucial, because you were in a drawn position throughout the game. They were going for blows, but just one move can change the thing entirely. Just one endgame move, and that's how crucial the endgames are. So have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find the idea. The idea is a rook to f4. And this is the only move which saves the game, because after bishop to d4, now you just go for this knight to a5. If rook to e7 check, king moves to c6. And yes, you have to lose the h7 pawn, but you will somewhere along the line win back the h4 pawn. After king to d5, rook to d7 check, king to e6. And after this, you just go for rook caps on h4, rook caps on g6. And you get this endgame where it seems to be that you're just completely lost, because king to d5 and you're just losing this pawn as well. But that's not the case. Even if you lose this pawn and that comes with an attack towards the knight, I have rook captures on d4, and that's the idea, because now whatever you do in this position, you've just lost a piece. And even if you have these two pawns and I have none, I can go for a draw in this position. But after king to d3, knight to b2 check was played by Arjun in time scramble, and unfortunately this is not a good move, because king to e4 and now knight to c4 was tried. Even if you try rook to f5 in this position, maybe that's the best way to go about this, because after bishop to e3, rook to b5, you just go for a3, you have knight to c4. And this is the idea, because now you have so many chances to try and go anything. Bishop to f4 is a great move in this position, because what you want to do is, you can see that these pawns are about to fall. You're just gonna go here and then win back this pawn, and then you would want to start and push. But this rook is basically a roadblock, so you would want to actually have something to defend this pawn, and then where you can just go for that h5 thrust. But after king to e4, just knight to c4 was played. Knight to c4 is a worse version of this game, because now after king to d5, that comes with an attack towards the knight as well. Knight moves back, and now just rook to f6, and now you can go for a trade. But hey, rook to d7 check was played. If you go for the trade, the pawn just pushes, so hey, trying something with a check, but it's not going to work, because just bishop to d6 blocking. King to b6, now just comes even a4, a5 was played, but hey, just rook to f8, and now knight to e4 was tried, but this is unfortunately the losing move. King captures, rook caps on d6, but now just comes to the check, and unfortunately in this position you have to go for the trade. The king is nowhere near the square, and that's means that you cannot really stop the pawn. So king to c5 was played. If you capture, I can just come back in the square, but just rook captures, king captures, and king to d4. And the trouble is, Arjun realizes that this endgame is completely lost. King to c6, just king to c4, king to d6, just king to b5, and this is how you lose this. So you must be thinking, why not just go here? I mean, this is also, the same idea. That's not the case, because now after this you have nothing, because you cannot go here, you cannot go here, you cannot go here. Once you go there, I'll go here, and if you try to go towards, let me just show you the line. If you try to go back, then even king to c5, and if king to a6 in this position, then now I have king to d5, and again king to b6, and we reach the same position. But the thing for you is, that was your move, but now this time it's my move, and once it's my move, now I can go for this very nice line with, now you can even go towards the other side with king to e6, although it seems to be, it's a miss supposedly, but it doesn't matter, because king to c5, then you just go for king to f6, king to b4, king to g7, and after king captures, king caps on h6. Don't go for the mistake of going here, and you think that you can just push the pawn, but that's not going to happen, and then you'll basically go for a draw. But king to b4 in this position, trying to make way for that passer, now you just go for h5, and h5 is a beautiful move in this position, because after this captures, you can try to push the pawn, but it's a bit too late. I just queen first, and this position is now completely winning. And this is what Arjun and both these players realize, because they know these positions by heart, and that's what's more important. End games are supposed to be known by heart, and as easy as this is a position you'll see in many endgame books, many endgame books. Even in Doretsky endgame manual, you have domination in 2-5 4-5 endgames, and all of those endgames just have these endgames, and you need to have the knowledge of this. So that's why I keep on saying endgames are very much important, because that's why. And Arjun had a chance to be able to draw this endgame, but unfortunately he faltered at the very end, and Levon was able to take the win. So yeah, kudos to Levon. Great game played by both of these players, and absolutely amazing start to the tournament. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.